Welcome back to First Things First. We'll get to LeBron in a second, but first, Nick Foles played the game of his life in the NFC title game, throwing for 3 touchdowns in a win over the Vikings, and now his daughter will be in attendance for the first time on Sunday. He spoke about the importance of this. Take a listen.
That's the most important thing. When I get to, when I think about this journey and everything, I get home and I get to see her. I get to see my wife, and I see her and my wife, like, in her, like, just in her face and her mannerisms. That's what it's about. And I know that every time I step on the field, every single thing I do, there's going to be some days she looks and wants to know who her daddy was and what he did. And that gives you a little extra juice to go out here. Whenever you're tired, whenever you're doing things the right way. I think about that because I know she's going to grow up, and I want her to be proud of her daddy. And I want, her mom and I, we talk about everything, and that's why we have such a great responsibility as athletes, not only to the young kids who watch us, because I was once the kid who watched the professional athletes and saw how they did. I watched the college athletes, but, now to be a father, that changes everything. And, it takes the pressure away because I get to go to home to her every night, and no matter what happens, no matter if I play a horrible game, she loves me. She has no idea. We win the Super Bowl. She has no idea. And she's going to love me no matter what, but obviously I want to go in this game, and, we're here to win it. But to have her here at this game with my wife is the greatest thing ever.
Oh, one correction. She's actually going to love you more if you win the Super Bowl. I'm just going to say it. She will love you more if you win the Super Bowl. That's beautiful.
Almost got you choked up,
That
man.
was nice.
Well, it's just not, because very seldom are people allowed just to be authentic and real, and it overcame him. It surprised him.
Yeah.
I'm all for the kids and everything. But, Nick, let me tell you something. Them Philly fans, bruh. You're going to have to go home to her if you lose this game.
Right.
Okay?
That was awesome.
Yeah.
And you can tell he's a new parent. It was hard for me in any context, and I'm guessing you're the same, to even mention my kid right after they were born the first time.
100%.
You're just overcome with emotion.
Yep.
Now, once they're as old, now they're a few years older, you're like, this is kind of a pain in
his
the butt.
daughter is 34. We should mention that.
But it's great.
It is. My daughter, she was born in Minneapolis. She was brought into the world by Dr. Burns, the Vikings team doctor.
Get out of here.
Yeah, my ex-wife went into labor. Dr. Burns called the hospital and said, don't deliver that baby till I get there. Happened to be on my off day.
Awesome.
So I was right there, and now she works for the Vikings.
Yeah.
So she was running around the Metrodome. Just like him, I felt just like that. So I connected with her.
That was
and
great.
now she's still in football. So,
That's
yes,
awesome.
we do have a responsibility, Nick Foles.
Yep.
And to them Philly fans, Nick.
Yeah, you gotta
I'm
get
telling you, bruh. Listen, you're going to have to go home to her. But everyone in Philadelphia will love you.
Great job by our
Good
staff
stuff.
putting that video. I hadn't seen it. That was awesome.
Really nice. All right, time now for some stories to start your morning. We start with the Super Bowl. Doug Peterson says adding Jay Ajayi midway through the season made the Eagles better. Ajayi averaged almost 6 yards per carry after that trade from Miami. CeCe, how big a factor will he be on Sunday?
He will be a big factor, and the reason why it was such a good trade, because it takes advantage of the best unit that they have, their offensive line. Now they have dual threats, him and LeGarrette Blount, even a triple threat that they use their third back also. But he's more explosive and different. He can run between the tackles. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's been a great addition. Man, they got multiple weapons now. Their wide receivers, they're not as consistent as you'd like them to be. So you need the running back position to produce, and Jay has done that there.
Our great stats team has been asking me to use this stat all week, and now I finally can. Of everyone that's played in the playoffs, the highest yards per carry after contact, Jay Ajayi by a decent margin. He's averaging nearly 3 yards after contact. So you have a hard time thus far in these playoffs bringing him down. It's a huge part of this game. It's a big way you can turn 3rd and 4 into first downs. It's a big way you can make sure you're in 2nd and 4 instead of 2nd and 7. Ajayi is a huge key to this game.
It is Wednesday, and Rob Gronkowski still is not out of the concussion protocol. Still says he expects to play on Sunday, though. CeCe, how big a factor will Gronk be this weekend?
It's a big factor. Also, we need to watch because today's Wednesday. It's when they start to practice. So they already have the game plan in from last week. Gronk didn't practice last week. So now if he doesn't practice Wednesday and Thursdays, those are the big work days at the Super Bowl. The game plan that they had installed, they go right back over it and install it again on Wednesday, Thursday. So we have to watch also because it's cardiovascular, he's been allowed to accelerate it. Let's see if he comes out of the protocol or because he raised his heart rate, that they kept him in the protocol, that is a danger sign. But I think he will be cleared by Sunday. They are a different football team without Gronk.
It's Wednesday morning. I am not concerned. If Friday morning, when we come into work, he has not yet been cleared, that leads the television show. Then I will be highly concerned. So it's again, we're talking Wednesday. They haven't yet practiced today. We'll see if he practices today. If he doesn't, okay. If he doesn't practice tomorrow, then I think you have real legitimate reason to be concerned. Not yet concerned, but obviously something to watch for.
All right, to the NBA now, and the Warriors lost by 30 points to the Jazz last night. Steph and Durant combined to shoot 1 of 12 from 3. That's not great. After the game, Steve Kerr called the performance disgusting basketball. Nick, any big takeaways from the Warriors, or was this just an off night?
No, this was typical Warriors in this regard, only in this regard. Early in the game, they weren't taking it that seriously. They figured, well, we're going to overpower them, and they just didn't hit shots. Now, very often, they are the best team in the league in basically every quarter, but particularly the third quarter. That's where there's no deficit too large to overcome. They didn't hit their shots last night. Like, they have so much talent. They don't have to be locked in to start every game. They weren't able to lock in last night.
Man, didn't you guys see it on TMZ? Man, they were at the club. They was drinking. Oh, well, Utah.
It's Salt Lake City.
Oh, I forgot. I forgot about that.
None of that
It's like the Bermuda Triangle out there in Utah, and it has been that way for years. Teams go out there on a regular basis and just lose. They have a night like, besides Harden last night, it seemed like almost everyone in the NBA said, we're going to take the night off. Golden State took the night off. Cleveland took the night off. So just the night off.
The rest of Houston took the night off, too. It was just Harden that actually played well. Finally, speaking of which, the Rockets hosted Orlando last night. Some of the Rockets hosted. All right, basically just James Harden hosted the Rockets last night. He had 60 points to go along with 10 boards and 11 assists. The first player in NBA history with 60 points in a triple-double. Now, the Rockets were without Chris Paul, without Trevor Ariza, for most of the game without Eric Gordon. So, Nick, how impressive was Harden's performance last night?
It is as impressive of a regular season performance as has been produced in my lifetime. It is right there with what James Harden, by the way, did on New Year's Eve last year when he had 53, 16, and 17. It is right there with Kobe's 81-point game, Kobe's 62 points in 3 quarters earlier that season that gets overlooked. It's right there with anything LeBron's ever done in the regular season. To account for nearly 90 points of offense, points and assists, and it's a shame. The Rockets have an 11-game stretch where 10 games are on national TV. The one that is not was last night. So if you don't have a league pass, you didn't get to see it. But I was watching this game on the second screen with the Cavs game on the primary screen, and I ended up eventually muting the Cavs game, putting the sound on this one. Harden to get to 56, step-back jumper in someone's eye. To get to 60, an and 1-3 to ice the game. It was a tied game with a minute and a half left. Every single one of these points mattered. I think he locked up the MVP last night, but that's more long-term. It was as impressive of a regular season performance as I've ever seen in the NBA.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when we see a stat line like that, because we've only seen in the last several years, you mentioned Russell Westbrook, and Harden have had stat lines.
So 50-point triple-doubles.
Yes, but, you know, we had Chris Broussard on earlier talking about the history of the NBA. Anytime you talk about the first time someone did something, and that's what he was able to accomplish last night. It's a special night. But it also, and I got to bring LeBron into this because I wish LeBron had a little more of this. Like, they had half a squad last night. And he just went on full out assault, like, I'm just getting ready to get buckets, carry the whole team on my back. And, like, I wish LeBron would have done that. Like, Kevin Love was hurt. He know IT's coming back. But he's such an unselfish player that, you know, to me, I just wish sometime he was just more selfish and just take over the game the way Harden did. That's the only way that they can win the game. So it was pretty special a night. Not only the points, but the rebound assist. combination of getting the triple-double. We talk about Wilt. We talked about Oscar Robertson. They played in an era where numbers approached this, but even neither one of them were able to get that type of stat line.
Listen, and Harden this year, the whole league has 8 50-point games. 50-point games. He's got 4 of them. Okay? So he has half of the 50-point games of the entire league. And people, I think, at this point, we've become spoiled the last year and a half with these 50-point triple-doubles. Not 60-point triple-doubles, first one ever last night, but prior to the beginning of last season, in NBA history, there were 2 50-point triple-doubles. One by Wilt, one by Kareem. In the last year and a half, there have been 6. 3 by Harden, 3 by Russell Westbrook. So don't get lost in how rare that had been.
Yes.
And we should mention, he's not 7'5". He's not the best shooter in the league. He's not the strongest. He's not the most muscular. He's not any of those things. He's just a really good, smart basketball player.
Yeah, very skilled. Can dribble, can shoot from anywhere on the court, intermediate game.
And that's very
Can finish at the rim.
Yeah.
Free throw shooting, too. Amazing. You know, him and Steph Curry, Durant, that's what puts them in rare air, because if you do foul him, last night he went to the free throw line 18 times.
And he's better at drawing fouls than any non-center I've ever seen.
Yes.
Like, he's so Chris Broussard used the word crafty.
Yeah.
Crafty is a perfect word for him. He's great. He's going to finally win an MVP this year.
All right, other NBA news. The big Blake Griffin NBA trade Monday netted big reactions Tuesday, so we were discussing it Wednesday. 6 months after signing a 5-year, $171 million deal with the Clippers, they traded Griffin to the Pistons for a handful of players. Needless to say, the blockbuster move sparked reactions across the league, namely LeBron James, who waxed poetic about the trade narrative in the NBA. Here he was before the game yesterday talking about when he heard the news about Blake being dealt.
I just woke up from a nap and seen the news, because I was like a little bit in shock when I first saw it. But listen, I know the business, and as unfortunate as it looks, you know the business, so it is what it is. When a player gets traded, they was doing what's best for the franchise, but when a player decides to leave, he's not loyal, he's a snake, he's not committed. That's just that's the narrative of how it goes. So I'm definitely I know that firsthand.
Look, we always sort of knock some of these guys for not giving us insight into what they're really thinking. And LeBron is saying there's a double standard. When the team trades you, it's one thing, right? But then when you go somewhere else, all of a sudden, like, you know, you've done something wrong, or, you know, the fans start blaming you. Do you think, CC, that LeBron's right about a double standard?
Of course. There will always be a double standard. You have to realize now that the players now, I mean, they are multi-millionaires, but the owners are billionaires. All right? The players are under a contract, under a work agreement. The owner owns the team, pretty much owns the stadium. Now, and it will always be that the owner will always be able to do that. Like, and it is a double standard. Is it right? It's just the price of doing business. Like, almost all of us have a boss or have an organization that is going to be over us, that the decision-making is not going to always be left in our hands. I think the sport is better off that way. That's the only way you're going to be able to do business. And no, but the players got a great end of the deal, too, especially with the guaranteed contracts and everything that they have in the NBA, the labor piece that they have, the current TV deals that they have, the increase in the salary cap over the last 5 years. Like, it's a good trade-off, but it's nice that LeBron was able to set square and just be like, yes, this is reality. And when I saw it, I'm not so callous that it doesn't affect me. And I remember when I left here, compared to Blake, him being set up there in L.A. and now them shipping them off to Detroit. Yes, there will always be a double standard.
I think the big issue I have is not with the double standard between the power the owners have and the powers the players have, because you're right. That's in almost every industry, walk of life. It's the way the fans react to a owner or a general manager doing what's right for business, and a player doing what's right for their business. It is
right, but a lot of times in doing that, what the player decides to do is not in the best interest of the fans' business.
Okay, of the team as a whole, which is what the
the fans' business. The fan is the fan of the team and of the logo and partially of the player. We saw that with LeBron. We thought they were LeBron fans. No, they were Cavs fans.
So I think,
not to make an excuse.
No,
but
I think the psychology is correct. I also think for some reason fans never want. Not many people grow up saying, you know what, one day I'm going to own a team. But almost all of us as little kids were like, one day I'm going to play in the league. I remember being 7 years old telling my dad, I'm going to be Moses Malone. Why I picked Moses Malone, I do not know. But I remember telling him that. Didn't quite work out for me. Most of us, right. And so maybe it's because fans then think, oh, I would love to be playing. And they don't think I would be an owner. But where we see it the most, the biggest discrepancy is with football. With football, when we will have 100+ guys under contract who are cut. And nobody is going to say, honor the contract, teams. Nobody's going to say, well, you signed him to a contract. But if we have one player hold out from camp the way Dwayne Brown did while under contract, what will the fans say? Honor your contract. It's why it takes an enormous breach for me to feel like a player's gone too far. It takes, when we heard Kyrie threaten to have surgery, it didn't seem like he needed. That's basically, there was finally you have found something where I'm going to be like, wow, that's maybe exerting too much leverage. But a player demanding a trade, a player saying I want to sit out, like the teams do this to players all the time, and they do it knowing the fans in general will back up the teams. Probably because you said they're fans of the team first and players second, maybe most notably in the NFL, but in the NBA as well.
Yeah, it will never be a fair system when you look at the power that the owners have. And ultimately, I'm going to respect the owner doing what was best for the team. That is the price of being a professional coach. That is the price that you're going to compromise to being a professional player. But let me tell you something. If you give me $170 million, you can trade me. I'll go to Lithuania, okay? I'll go over there and play with the ball boys. You give me that over 5 years, you guarantee the whole thing. You can trade me, flip me, do whatever you want. Just make sure my money is delivered on time. So, you know, the players got a great deal.
But just one last note, if Blake Griffin this summer had taken $170 million from Detroit, he had signed with them, Clipper fans would be mad at him. But Clipper fans are not mad right now with the team for trading him. I think that's LeBron's point. Because he's going to get the money no matter what.
All right, coming up, the big NFL trade that could start a chain reaction. More moves to come. That's next. First things first.
Charlie, man, y'all want to trade me?
Nah,
Give me the money, man. Y'all
no way.
trade me.